Hey everyone, it's the 1st of November, and that means it's International Self Portrait Day. I did my first self portrait day video last year, so this one makes year number 2 for me. I don't normally do self portraits at all, and I can count on one hand the number of times I've tried to do one in all my years of being an artist. So, this is a nice excuse for me to sit down and get one done, and also use this as an opportunity to reflect upon the past year. And boy, it's been one crazy year after another, especially in the art sphere. From non fungible tokens, aka NFTs, soaring in popularity, and then nosediving into the trenches, where I'd argue that trend belongs, to the rise of AI art generators. It's been one thing after another, but let's talk about that a little later. I've been trying to balance a lot of different disciplines like drawing, painting, digital sculpting, 3D modeling, and soon I'll be dabbling in traditional media again. A lot of the time, I improve leaps and bounds in one area and stagnate in another area if I fail to balance my practice sessions well. So, juggling these different disciplines can be very challenging. I'm very comfortable with drawing to where I don't have to draw every single day anymore. There once was a time where I had to draw on a regular basis, where even taking a week or two off would make me feel rusty and it felt like I had to start from square one. But now I'm at a point where that's no longer the case. I'm not quite there yet with painting, but I have developed a lot in that area as well. Just a little over a year ago, I had to do an underdrawing before I attempted to paint anything, but now I'm able to grasp volumetric painting. For the longest time, I just could not paint in that manner as my brain just rejected that way of working. I grew up drawing a lot, and that too drawing a lot of anime characters. So I saw and understood the world around me in terms of lines. That was the best way for me to describe things I saw or imagined on paper. But of late, I can finally make that switch in my head to where I can see in terms of color shapes. So I can now manage to carve out silhouettes and break them into light and dark shapes and render them into a fully realized painting. I still find line art to be the fastest way for me to realize my ideas. I'm unsure as to what contributed to making that light go off inside my head to where I could switch between working in two very different ways that are antagonistic to each other, but I suspect working in different mediums really helped. A little over a half a decade ago, when I started sculpting in ZBrush, it really helped me improve my drawing ability. Before sculpting, I was thinking only in terms of lines on a page rather than thinking about representing a 3D volume on a 2D surface. Sculpting really helped me expose my weaknesses because when I'd sculpt, all my forms would end up looking wrong because I was only working on it from one angle. The moment I spun the model around, it looked terrible. So sculpting pushed my drawing ability and vice versa. The more my drawings improved, the better I got at sculpting. But eventually, you'll get diminishing returns, and I think I passed that phase a long time ago with respect to the relationship between drawing and sculpting. Now I need to put in a lot of mileage in a specific area if I want to see any substantial improvements. Where 3D modeling is concerned, it's just a tool for me to use for concepting, so I'm content with where I stand. There are a few more tools I'd like to add to my arsenal, and maybe there are some tricks I can learn along the way to speed up my workflow in 3D. But other than that, it's more about honing and refining my design sensibility. Overall, I feel like I've improved just a little from the last year. However, I've definitely gotten a lot more confident in my ability. I've also gotten a lot faster at what I do, and that's because I'm able to make better decisions. Speed ultimately comes down to decision making and not down to how fast you move your hands. Every year, I also try to learn a new program. I've been doing that for close to a decade. Last year, for example, I learned how to use Fusion 360. I'm not new to CAD modeling, but I wanted to familiarize myself with the program. This year, however, was the first where I actually never picked up a new tool. It's not that I've run out of programs I want to learn, I've still got a long laundry list. It's just that there's always a shiny new tool out there, and I've already got a grasp of all the tools I need to create whatever it is that I'm trying to do. So it didn't make sense for me to keep adding a bunch of new tools to my arsenal that I'm probably not going to be using anytime soon. Speaking of new tools, let's segue into the latest hot button issue, which is AI art generators. Ever since these things burst into the scene, they've been giving a lot of artists deep existential angst. Some artists view these things as merely tools, and some see them as replacements. And for a while, it had me up thinking as well. So I decided to test out some of these art generators myself. I tried out things like Crayon, Dream Studio, Stable Diffusion, and I've come to the conclusion that these things still have a long way to go. I think we have a tendency to overestimate technology. Predictions were made years ago that we would have personal air mobility vehicles, autonomous self-driving cars, and completed the first manned Mars mission by now. But no such thing has happened yet. Not saying that they won't, but we grossly overestimate what we can do with technology. Plus, a lot of these art generators have used a ton of copyrighted material in their datasets to train their AI models, which means there are a lot of legal and ethical implications that come along with it. So there is a lot of stuff to still be ironed out, and until then, our AI overlords will have to wait a bit longer. Now, I'm not going to get deep into the weeds on AI art in this video. The reason for me bringing it up was because it made me really think about the work that I was doing and had me reevaluate a lot of things. Sometimes these disruptive things can be a boon. Personally, it's made me feel more driven to create art, to really experiment with style, to do a complete 180 on the way I approach things, and to push myself harder at getting better at my craft. This self-portrait here is a reflection of that. Now, this whole thing took me close to 90 minutes to do. I didn't have much time to spare this time around. The likeness is kinda there. It's not exactly my forte. I might tweak things a bit more at a later date to nail the likeness the best I can. And lastly, I just hit 900 subs on the channel and crossed 100,000 views, so I wanted to thank you kind folks for watching my videos. I really appreciate the support. Be sure to tune into the channel every Friday, as I'm currently doing a weekly fan art series. So that brings me to the end of my rambling. Thanks for sticking around, and I will talk to you in the next one.